The dangers of greed have been a recurring theme throughout human history and are clearly addressed in the Bible. Greed, which is an excessive desire for material wealth or possessions, can lead to spiritual, emotional, and relational destruction. It distorts our priorities, separates us from God, and creates a false sense of security that ultimately leaves us unfulfilled. The Bible provides profound wisdom on how to recognize the trap of loving money and offers guidance on cultivating a heart that is aligned with God's will. The root of greed often lies in the belief that money can solve all problems or provide ultimate happiness. Society perpetuates this idea by glorifying wealth and material success, but the Bible warns us against placing our trust in riches. In 1 Timothy 6 verse 10, Paul writes, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." It's important to note that it is not money itself that is evil, but the love of money, an obsession with acquiring more at any cost that leads to harmful consequences. Greed blinds us to the needs of others and fosters selfishness. When our primary focus is accumulating wealth, we can become indifferent to the struggles of those around us. Jesus tells the parable of the rich fool in Luke 12 verses 16 to 21, where a wealthy man hoards his possessions, building larger barns to store his surplus, rather than sharing his abundance. God calls him a fool, saying, "This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" The story illustrates that greed not only prevents us from being generous, but also leaves us spiritually impoverished, unprepared for eternity. The pursuit of wealth at all costs can also lead to ethical compromises. Greed tempts us to prioritize profits over principles, leading to dishonesty, exploitation, and corruption. Proverbs 28 verse 20 warns, "A faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished." Short-term gains achieved through unethical means may seem appealing, but they ultimately result in loss, whether through damaged relationships, legal consequences, or a fractured conscience. Integrity is far more valuable than wealth, and God calls us to uphold righteousness in all our dealings. Greed not only affects our external actions, but also corrupts our inner life. It creates a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction, as no amount of money or possessions can fill the void in our hearts. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10 observes, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." This too is meaningless. When we chase after material things, we lose sight of what truly matters: our relationship with God, our purpose, and the joy found in serving others. The pursuit of wealth becomes an idol that replaces God as the center of our lives. To avoid the trap of loving money, we must first recognize the signs of greed in our hearts. Greed often manifests as an insatiable desire for more, envy of others' success, or anxiety about financial security. It can also show up in how we use our resources, hoarding instead of giving, spending on unnecessary luxuries while neglecting those in need, or making financial decisions driven solely by fear or pride. By identifying these tendencies, we can begin to address the underlying issues and seek God's help in transforming our hearts. Cultivating contentment is one of the most effective ways to combat greed. Philippians 4 verses 11 to 13 teaches us about the importance of being content in all circumstances. Paul writes, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." Contentment comes from trusting in God's provision and recognizing that He is the ultimate source of our joy and fulfillment. It frees us from the constant pressure to accumulate more and allows us to appreciate the blessings we already have. Generosity is another powerful antidote to greed. When we give freely, we break the grip of materialism and reflect God's love to the world. Proverbs 11 verses 24 to 25 says, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." Generosity not only benefits those we help, but also enriches our own lives by aligning us with God's heart. As we give, we learn to trust God more deeply, knowing that He will meet our needs and bless our faithfulness. Another way to guard against greed is to shift our focus from earthly treasures to eternal rewards. Jesus reminds us in Matthew 6 verses 19 to 21, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Investing in God's kingdom, through acts of service, sharing the gospel, and helping those in need, leads to lasting fulfillment and a deeper connection with God. It also helps us maintain an eternal perspective, recognizing that our time on earth is temporary and that true wealth lies in our relationship with Him. Prayer and gratitude are essential practices for overcoming greed. By seeking God's guidance and expressing thankfulness for His blessings, we cultivate a heart of humility and dependence on Him. 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 16 to 18 encourages us to rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. For this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reminding us of God's faithfulness and provision. It also helps us resist the temptation to compare ourselves to others, which often fuels envy and greed. Finally, surrounding ourselves with a community of believers can help us stay accountable and grounded in our faith. Hebrews 10 verses 24 to 25 urges us to spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another. Engaging with a supportive community provides encouragement, wisdom, and accountability as we navigate the challenges of living a God-honoring life. By sharing our struggles and victories, we can grow together and strengthen our commitment to resisting greed and embracing generosity. In conclusion, the dangers of greed are real and far-reaching, but God provides a clear path to freedom and fulfillment. By recognizing the trap of loving money, cultivating contentment, practicing generosity, and keeping our focus on eternal rewards, we can align our lives with His will and experience true abundance. Trusting in God's provision and seeking His guidance in all things allows us to break free from the grip of materialism and live a life that honors Him. Greed may promise temporary satisfaction, but only God can provide lasting joy and peace. Through His strength and wisdom, we can overcome the temptations of greed and use our resources to glorify Him and bless others.